What's indeed going on, Jerome's? It's a beautiful Saturday morning. Birds are chirping. Well, Saturday afternoon. Close enough. Birds are still chirping and ish. And the Minnesota Vikings should and could be able to find their quarterback of the future this year. Now, it's a question of, hey, do you stick and pick at 11? Do you potentially try to trade back into the first round? Do you potentially try to get one at the top of the second? Or do you go all the way up into the stratosphere, try and get your guy? And Kwesi, Kwesi's got to get something going. Not gonna lie, man. And all the rumor and hubbub that the Vikings were interested in potentially trading up for Anthony Richardson last year, who ended up going number 4 to the Colts. There's a lot of things going around, and frankly, would Kwesi be motivated to give up future draft picks to go get his guy? Because if it doesn't work out and if the Vikings don't land their quarterback in the future, he won't be around to spend those draft picks anyway. It could be. A long story longer, getting into ESPN, Dan Graziano and company did up a recent piece where there's two parts of it. One part is the Vikings, and one part is the New England Patriots at 3. So the Vikings part, go. Kirk Cousins impending free agency is a story at this year's Super Bowl. Vikings are working to see if they can get the 35, blah, 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 blah. The final 4 years of Kirk Cousins' contract voids on the final day of the league year, which means the Vikings can't franchise tag him, as the void date is after the franchise tag window, and his $28.5 million dead in salary cap charges would accelerate onto the 2024 cap if he's not signed to an extension by that date. The dead cap acceleration wouldn't prevent them from re-signing him, but would make it a lot easier for them to manage a deal if they could get an agreement before March 12th and defray some of those charges into future years of a new deal. Now, what would happen is if they re-sign Kirk, it would be they would add void years onto like a 1 or 2 or 3 year deal, hopefully two or less, and the 28.5 would remain dead on the cap, but they would structure it so it would be future dead cap years. So basically, that Brzezinski could set it up where it would be like if it the dead cap hits stay prorated over 4 years, and then there was new money in. But it's just shuffling papers. If the Vikings want to re-sign Kirk, whether it's before or after his contract voids, they can do it. All right. And then Graziano gets into what the Patriots could potentially do at 3, and that's tied to the Vikings. So the Patriots chilling at the number 3 overall selection, and it's largely believed that in some combination, Caleb Williams or Drake May goes 1-2, and maybe it's a spot where, hey, they would be in on May or Williams if they fell to 3, but maybe they're not enamored with Jaden Daniels. Maybe they got some questions. Maybe they're not in at McCarthy that high, or Penix or Rattler or Nix or whoever. And yeah, they could stick and pick and just take Marvin Harrison Jr., which would be fantastic. Or do they see themselves in a spot where they could trade down? And since this is such a very good wide receiver class, they could trade down, get a bunch of draft picks, sign their quarterback of the future in free agency, and still get a guy like Malik Neighbors or Ryan Thomas or Roma Dunze at receiver, etc. I mean, lots of things going on. So Graziano wrote this about the Patriots. Sure, could the Patriots trade their first round pick? Sure, there's been a lot of talk about what will happen with the first and second picks of the 2024 draft, what the Bears and commies do, and where all the quarterbacks end up. But I'm hearing a bit of buzz about the third pick, which belongs to the New England Patriots. The Patriots also need a quarterback, but there are people around the league who believe they're open to trading the number 3 selection, moving back in the draft and addressing the quarterback position in free agency. Aha. So free agency, looking around, Kirk obviously is the crown jewel. Then you got Tannehill, Brissett, Tygod, Mariota. So Russ is not listed here, but he is going to get cut by the Broncos. No one's trading for that stupid contract. So, I mean, if the Patriots feel like they can be competitive early in the Gerard Mayo tenure and they want to run it back with Kirk Cousins for a couple of years, they have the cap space to do it. They have the second most cap in the league, and they could go from there. If the Pats do trade the pick, which could be Daniels or May, the two teams I keep an eye on are the Falcons moving from the number 8 spot and the Vikings moving from the number 11 spots, assuming they don't bring back Kirk Cousins. Minnesota knows it eventually has to address the quarterback position long term, and the notion of bringing in Daniels to pair with their star LSU alum wideout Justin friggin' Jefferson has appealed to some in the organization. Skol SU. And also, it would be kind of ironic that Kirk Cousins gets replaced by Jaden Daniels, the guy who plays like 6'4" RG3, who Kirk took his job at Washington back in the day. It's really good, man. But what could complicate things is the Falcons are at 8. And if New England only wants to drop down 5 spots as opposed to 8, the Vikings would have to do some serious outbidding in that spot. And it's a spot where it's good that free agency comes before the draft, because, I mean, what if the Patriots do ink up Kirk Cousins? Give him a 2-3 year deal with heavy guarantees, and he starts things over in New England, and they want to. I mean, Robert Kraft's a proud guy, and the last couple years, it's been really tough for New England. Like, you can win all the Super Bowls you want, but bad football is bad football, and Mac Jones is terrible. Bailey Zappi is not it, and Belichick, the final years were not good. And I feel like, given Boston, Gerard Mayo and company have to hit the ground running, and I do think that Kirk would give them a running start and be able to provide them with 2-3 years of really good, solid football, and they can afford it. They have the cap space to do it, and if they're not enamored with one of the quarterbacks that falls to them at 3, then I could see them potentially moving the pick, and maybe you do have the Falcons or the Vikings looking into do prefer that quarterback that did fall. Maybe they see that QB who fell to 3 as their guy for the future. And in terms of looking at draft compensation, so of course the infamous muy infamoso Trey Lance trade. So the Niners came up from 12 to 3, and it cost them their first round pick that year, number 12, 2 future first rounders and a future third round pick. So that's probably where the Vikings would be starting the conversation, and especially if the Falcons are in, it may cost a little bit more. So we'll see what happens in that regard. Or, I mean, maybe the Vikings stick and pick there, or maybe the Vikings, trade up and target quarterback 4 or 5. Don't know. I mean, there's a lot of variables at this point, and it really does all start and end with what the hell is going to happen with Kirk Cousins. I think that he is the key domino with whatever is going to happen with the other free agent quarterbacks, what's going to happen with draft strategy with a bunch of these teams. And I kind of feel like Kirk likes the limelight. Like he likes that people are talking about him. He likes being the center of attention, and he's going to have it for the next month before he decides what's going to happen with him in free agency and potentially change the course for a number of franchises. But your thoughts are thoughts. Could the Vikings end up trading up to number 3 with the New England Patriots? Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.